The vineyard had been in Ethan Walker's family for 3 generations. Every vine represented decades of hard work, patience, and tradition. The estate was now worth over $18 million. Ethan believed nothing could ever threaten what his family had built. Each morning began with a quiet walk through the vineyard. Ethan personally inspected every section before his workers arrived. The harvest season was only weeks away. Everything looked perfect. The peaceful morning ended the moment an HOA truck rolled onto the property. A woman Ethan had never met climbed out holding a clipboard. She marched toward him without introducing herself. Her expression made it clear she wasn't there for a friendly visit. Melissa claimed the vineyard violated HOA landscaping rules. She insisted the grapevines were nothing more than overgrown weeds. Ethan listened quietly before asking one simple question. "Are you sure you're talking about my property?" Melissa refused to listen. She warned Ethan that the HOA would correct the violation if he failed to act. Ethan explained that his vineyard wasn't part of any HOA. She laughed as if he'd just made an excuse. Ethan offered to show her the property deed immediately. Melissa barely glanced at the documents. She insisted HOA authority extended across the entire valley. The conversation ended with a warning instead of a solution. As Melissa drove away, Ethan couldn't shake a bad feeling. Her confidence didn't match the facts. Something about the encounter suggested she wasn't finished. He decided to document everything just in case. That afternoon, Ethan reviewed every document related to property. The records clearly confirmed the vineyard had never belonged to the HOA. Still, he made copies of everything. Experience had taught him to prepare before problems grew larger. The evening seemed peaceful once again. The vineyard looked as beautiful as ever beneath the setting sun. Ethan hoped the disagreement had ended. Unfortunately, it was only beginning. The next morning, Ethan froze as he turned onto his property. Several crews had already begun preparing to cut into the vineyard. Melissa stood confidently beside them, convinced she had every right to proceed. Within seconds, Ethan realized his family's legacy was in immediate danger. Ethan shouted for everyone to stop immediately. The workers hesitated, but Melissa ordered them to continue. Within moments, decades-old grapevines began falling to the ground. Every second caused thousands of dollars in damage. Ethan dropped to one knee beside the ruined vines. Years of careful cultivation had been destroyed in minutes. The vineyard wasn't just a business. It represented generations of his family's history. Instead of losing his temper, Ethan began recording everything. Every damage row, every worker, and every instruction was captured on video. He knew solid evidence would matter later. Nothing would be left undocumented. Melissa insisted she was enforcing HOA regulations. Ethan calmly explained that the property had never belonged to the association. She dismissed his documents without reading them. The argument only grew louder. A concerned neighbor called the sheriff's office. Within minutes, a deputy arrived to investigate the disturbance. Both sides immediately began explaining their version of events. The deputy requested everyone's documentation. The deputy carefully examined Ethan's property deed. He compared it with the county survey information. The documents clearly identified the vineyard as private property. Melissa's confidence slowly began to fade. The deputy questioned each landscaping worker individually. They admitted they had been hired by Melissa. Several explained they believed she had legal authority. The situation became far more serious. The full extent of the destruction became painfully clear. Entire rows of mature grapevines had been cut down. The financial loss was enormous. The emotional impact was even greater. A professional agricultural assessor was called to inspect the property. Every damaged vine and broken support post was documented. The inspection would help determine the total financial loss. The evidence continued to grow. By the end of the day, Ethan had made his decision. He gathered every document, photograph, and video recording. The next step would not take place in the vineyard. It would take place in court. The following week, Ethan officially filed his lawsuit. His legal team submitted property records, survey maps, and damage reports. Every piece of evidence had been carefully organized. The court scheduled the first hearing. Ethan's attorney reviewed every document one final time. The evidence clearly showed the vineyard was never governed by the HOA. The legal strategy was straightforward. The facts would speak for themselves. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. Members questioned how such an expensive mistake had happened. Some admitted they had never verified the property boundaries. The mood inside the room quickly turned tense. A certified vineyard expert completed a full damage assessment. The report estimated millions in losses, including future harvest income. Every destroyed vine affected long-term production. The financial consequences were substantial. The courtroom fell silent as the hearing began. Both sides prepared to present their opening statements. The judge reminded everyone that only verified evidence would be considered. The case officially got underway. The attorney presented the county survey maps. They clearly outlined Ethan's property lines. The vineyard sat entirely outside HOA jurisdiction. The courtroom carefully followed every detail. For the first time, Melissa closely examined the property deed. The legal description matched the county records exactly. Her earlier claim became increasingly difficult to defend. The courtroom noticed a change in her expression. The deputy described what he observed at the vineyard. He explained that Ethan cooperated fully during the investigation. He also confirmed reviewing the official property documents. His testimony supported the documented evidence. Photographs and videos documented the damage in detail. The timeline showed exactly when the destruction occurred. The evidence was clear and consistent. Each exhibit strengthened Ethan's case. After reviewing the evidence presented so far, the judge announced a brief recess. Both sides prepared for the next phase of the trial. The final outcome was still undecided, but the direction of the case had begun to shift in Ethan's favor. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more HOA stories every week. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from?